Thank you so much. And Ms. Worstner is just an excellent assistant, I tell you. She's on the ball all the time. So I don't know what I'll do without her. But thank you again for everybody for coming on here today for the roundtable discussion. I'm Anna Johnson, County Council member for District 8. And we have been doing this for 10 years. 10 whole years, long years. Doesn't seem like 10 long years, but that's right, long years. And it's great to have the opportunity to come to the community and share the services that the county has to offer, because a lot of people really are not familiar with all of what the county does. And then it gives you a chance also to get updates. If you did know about something and there's some changes when our different staff members come on, it's just great to know that. So today we are going to talk about our Greenbelt program. And we have our director, Ms. Kathy Ruff, here with us. And she's going to be leaving us. I don't know, Ms. Ruff. You have to be hanging around to some degree with us, right?
Yes, ma'am. I'll be around. I'm still there.
On this one. But I know all good things must come to an end at some point. So anyway, it certainly has been great working with Ms. Ruff, and I've learned a lot. Of course, I still got some more learning to do myself, and I want you all to learn all you can about the Greenbelt program. So I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Ruff and then let her take it away from there.
Okay, well, thank you, Councilmember Johnson, and I want to say it's been a joy working with you as well, and I so appreciate the time that you invest in serving on council and being involved in everything that you're involved in. It's not a part-time job, it is a full-time job, and I really appreciate what you have done, and it's a great honor to be here today. Thank you for allowing us this opportunity to speak at your roundtable and to share with the community about the Greenbelt program. So we're going to start today. Eric Davis, our new director, as Councilmember Johnson mentioned, I am retiring in a couple of weeks, and the county has hired Eric Davis, and he's going to start us off with some information about the program, and then I'll close out the presentation, giving you just some examples of some projects in District 8, in Ms. Johnson's district. So,
Ms. Ruff?
Yes.
Let me just interrupt just for a minute.
Yes, ma'am.
I realized I forgot to do something that I always do. And since I have this beautiful flag right here, I can't let this moment go by without doing our Pledge of Allegiance. So let's please join in and do that. I look forward to having our meetings, and this kind of brings us together, I think, with doing the Pledge of Allegiance. So I'll lead this here. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you so much. Sorry about that. Okay, back to you.
Yes, ma'am. All right, well, I'll turn it over to Eric, and he'll give us some program information.
All right, thank you, Kathy. I am going to start out with a history and an overview of the Greenbelt program. We're ready to go. All right.
Welcome to our staff, Mr. Davis.
Thank you very much. The Charleston County Greenbelt program began in 2004. That was when voters passed a half-penny sales tax to fund roads, mass transit, and greenbelts. Citizens were concerned that the new roads would promote growth and that could impact the natural beauty of Charleston County. All right, thank you, Kristen. The Charleston County Greenbelt Plan, after 2 years of planning and gathering public feedback and lots of hard work, was adopted by County Council in 2006. And this document does serve as the guiding document for the program. In the Greenbelt plan, the public defined the types of green space that they wanted the county to preserve. Passive green space like trails, greenways, interpretive parks, natural resources like upland forests, swamps, and bogs, heritage landscapes like the Sweetgrass Basket area on Highway 17 north of Mount Pleasant, productive landscapes like lands used for agriculture, silviculture, and mariculture, natural infrastructure like tidal marshes that reduce hurricanes, storm surge, active green spaces like soccer fields and park areas, and corridors that preserve tree canopies and buffers along roadways and waterways and connect people to nature. These green spaces collectively form a protective living system of landscape that serve the residents, businesses, visitors, and future generations of Charleston County by preserving and improving health and quality of life for all. The graphic on this slide shows the hubs and spokes model, which is our model, and it further exemplifies the interconnected type of Greenbelt system envisioned for Charleston County. You'll see that the major hubs are our parks, so city parks, county or state, perhaps federal land, and they're connected by multi-use paths, streams, or landscape roadsides to provide those connections to population centers, commercial areas, and our major Greenbelt hubs. In 2018, shortly after voters approved another half penny of sales tax funding, Council adopted the supplemental report to the Greenbelt plan. This update inventoried the success to date of the program in meeting the original goals of the 2006 plan. And just as importantly, it drew from results of another public survey, and those results did confirm that the top priorities of the Greenbelt plan continue to be passive green space, low country natural resources, public waterway access, bicycle and pedestrian connections, wildlife habitat, and historical and cultural features. You'll notice a little different symbol there for natural infrastructure. I wanted to call that one out specifically. Many of you, or all of you, I'm sure, recall the historic flooding of 2015. This was still fresh in the mind of survey respondents in 2016. Therefore, natural structure to help mitigate the effects of significant flood events rose up the priorities list between the 2006 and 2018 versions of the plan. It is also important to note that our application scoring criteria aligns with the public priorities that you see here. To implement the hubs and spokes Greenbelt model, the Greenbelt plan sets goals for various components. The overarching goal is to protect 40,000 protected acres. And those components are broken down there, and you can see the different target goals for rural lands, national forests, wetlands, urban lands, corridors, and county parks. And you can also see that with our partners, we have exceeded half of our goals, national forests, wetlands, and county parks. But we are still working to try and meet the other half. Those are rural lands, urban lands, and corridors. Next, I'd like to briefly provide some more detailed information on the progress of the program. Overall, County Council has approved a total of 179 projects. And you can see the breakdown below there between different types of projects. Total acres protected are over 23,000 acres. At a cost or funds awarded of $122.5 million. Next slide. And that averages out to a cost of $5,226 per acre. And you'll see the breakdown there that conservation easements are much more cost effective in protecting land in perpetuity than fee simple. 1,700 versus 13,600. One important thing to note is the Greenbelt funds, the sales tax is committed to protecting land, has leveraged almost $156 million in additional outside funds. That's a 127% match. And lots of these projects do provide for public access to some degree. There are over 10,000 acres of public access properties, and total funding towards public access is over 138 billion. Now let's take a quick look at how the Greenbelt program is funded. After 2 failed sales tax referendums, the third shot at it passed in November 2004. This half-penny sales tax included funding for the preservation of $221 million worth of green space in addition to roads and mass transit. Just to note, 36 million of that $221 million total was immediately set aside for Charleston County Parks and Recreation Commission to buy future parkland. In 2016, the voters once again passed another half-penny sales tax for roads, mass transit, and bridges, this time generating $210 million for the Greenbelt program. We'll take a closer look at how the funds from the 2004 sales tax were spent. The bulk of those funds have been expended to date. The 221 million, again, the 36 million went to county parklands, 66.5 million for rural Greenbelt projects, and 28.5 million for urban Greenbelt projects. That breakdown between rural and urban projects is 70% of the funding towards rural projects and 30% for urban. You'll also see that 90 million figure over on the side there. After the first referendum, it was really when the county was started, the population and development was starting to grow very rapidly. And there was a need to go ahead and take advantage and go ahead and make some progress on purchasing property that would soon be developed. So council made the decision to bond a large portion of the money. And essentially the interest on that bond was paid out of that $90 million, as well as program administrative costs. When we look at the 2016 sales tax, there were a couple of important changes. You'll see those numbers between rural and Greenbelt, rural and urban Greenbelts are divided equally. That's a 50-50 split now. So 100 million for rural, 100 million for urban. And this funding is also what we call pay-as-you-go, meaning that it was not bonded out. A portion still could be, but so far it has not been. Pay-as-you-go means we're actually going to make those funds available for potential projects as they are collected, rather than bonding those out. And then there is 10 million again set aside for administrative costs and potentially any debt service should council decide to take that action at a later date. Currently, there's a total of over $18 million available for Greenbelt program applications, with over 15,500,000 for rural and just under 3 million for urban. I'll go into a little bit more detail on the application process and exactly how the Greenbelt program works to protect land. There are 2 primary paths for protection, or tools for land protection. The first of those being fee simple acquisition. So this is where it transfers the full ownership of a property, including the underlying title, to another party. That would be what most folks are familiar with. If you have a house or land, you want to sell that land to another party, you're going through the fee simple acquisition process. Now, when the Greenbelt program funds this acquisition, there is a grant agreement that's recorded with the deed and runs with the deed in perpetuity. It's putting some general restrictions on that property, mainly ensuring that it'll forever be park space and preserve the natural features and elements that the Greenbelt program seeks to protect. A conservation easement is the second path to protection. This is a legal agreement that limits the use of land, where a property owner would be paid for the value of the rights that they give up on that land. And typically those are development rights. So restrictions you would see under a conservation easement would be maybe restrictions on the amount of houses on a property or subdivision or impervious surfaces, and often setbacks from wetlands as well. The property owner still retains title to that property, but is compensated for those restrictions that are put on it. And conservation easement is even more restrictive typically than our grant agreement, but we do still record a grant agreement with conservation easements. Each project is unique. Council can choose to approve the projects with additional conditions if they so choose. For fee simple Greenbelt projects, our Greenbelt staff will go out and monitor these properties annually to ensure that the agreement terms are being followed. For conservation easements, a land trust typically holds that easement, and they're going to monitor that property each year and provide us a report, and then we make sure we join them at least once every other year to do our own inspection of the property as well. Another note is that closing costs and due diligence activities may also be funded through the program, as well as minor improvements such as trails, unpaved parking, and boardwalks. These improvements don't necessarily protect the land themselves, but they do provide public access so that they can directly experience and reap the benefits of our Greenbelt lands. And not just anyone can apply for Greenbelt funds. Eligible applicants include governmental entities, which could be federal, local, state, nonprofit organizations. These do need to be recognized as 501c nonprofits by the IRS, and land trusts, who are typically nonprofits as well. But nonprofit organizations and governmental entities usually apply for funding for fee simple acquisition of minor improvements. And really only certified, nationally certified land trusts apply for conservation easement funding. Also important to note that our program does not actually purchase the land or conservation easements in our name. We work with willing eligible applicants and willing sellers on potential projects. Once council has approved a project and all the criteria are met for closing, we essentially act as a kind of bank and show up at closing with a check. Therefore, if you're an owner that's interested in protecting your land, whether that be fee simple or conservation easement, you would need to work with one of these organizations to make that happen if you wanted to use Greenbelt funds. And we're happy to put you in touch with those organizations should you be interested. And here's some detail about the whole process from start to finish, how an idea becomes a Greenbelt property. When we open up a funding call, we ask applicants to submit a letter of intent to tell us a little bit about their project. And once we've reviewed it and ensure that it is an eligible project, then we send them a link for an application. Those are all online. Once the application is complete, submitted, and the grant call closes, staff will review the projects. We'll actually go out and do a site visit and score those projects as well. Next, the Greenbelt Advisory Board has a subcommittee of 6 members that really gets down into the details of the project. They rank those, and then they vote to make recommendations to the full Greenbelt Advisory Board. When it goes to the advisory board, they can accept that recommendation from the subcommittee or make changes. They take a vote, and that recommendation goes on to county council. Assuming county council approves the project, there's a long list of due diligence and items that have to be taken care of before we allow you to set up your closing and we provide the funds for closing. But once all that happens, we do show up and provide the funds, and that's how an idea becomes a Greenbelt property. And we are about to open up our FY22 winter application cycle on Monday, November 1st. And the deadline to get those applications in will be close of business on Friday, January 28th. I'm going to turn it over now to Kathy. She's been here, 25 years longer than me, so I think she can give you some more details and remembers a lot of those projects from District 8, Ms. Johnson's district.
Very good.
Thank you, Eric. Okay, just want to spend some time again looking at what's been accomplished through the program, a little bit more detail specifically in District 8, Ms. Johnson's district. You can see here on the map, Ms. Johnson's district covers a wide area of land in the southern and western ends of the county. To date, in District 8, the Greenbelt program has funded the protection of 14,557 acres, or basically 63% of the acres protected in the whole program. And of that, it took $56 million to protect those lands, or 46% of the funds. And I think a lot of the reason a large portion is attributed to Ms. Johnson's area is there's a lot of land in her district. The other areas that have a lot of land is in the northern end of the county, but a lot of that's protected already through the Francis Marion National Forest. Okay, next slide. Look specifically at some of the projects in District 8. As Eric mentioned, the way that the two ways that we protect land is through fee simple purchases of public lands. And right now, all of the lands bought in fee will be open to the public or are currently open to the public. So currently in District 8, $38.5 million has been invested in the district for public parkland. 18 of those parks are currently open and they total almost 1,400 acres. There's also 21 future parks that have already been approved for over another additional 1,500 acres. And you'll just see some pictures there of some of the current and future parks. Okay. And just to give you an example of a couple of projects in Ms. Johnson's district, the first one, you may know it as a solid boat landing. It's officially titled the Battery Island Landing. Ms. Johnson was very involved in getting this property protected. What was happening, and you may say, well, it's been a boat landing for quite a long time. Actually, the PRC was leasing that land from the landowner, and he wanted to sell it. And had the county council not approved the funding, Greenbelt funding for the purchase, this might have been a public water access that might have been lost forever. So through the process, the Charleston County Parks and Recreation Commission was able to apply for funding, and they were awarded $300,000 to purchase an acre of land. It's just under an acre of land. And since the Greenbelt program used the funding to buy the land, PRC, the Parks and Recreation Commission, was able to free up some of their funding to add a new fishing pier so that the uses of a boat landing and fishing can be more separated, which has been more beneficial to both users to get those separated. So that's at the end of Solid Green Road on James Island. It's an urban project that was funded by County Council in April of 2018. Okay. Oops. There we go. Another project, this is a rural project out in the town of Hollywood. It's at the end of Trexler Drive. It's called Wide Awake Park. And the town of Hollywood bought this a little over 7-acre piece of property in October of 2009. It was turnkey. It was already pretty much a park. They were able to just basically put a gate on it or security on it. You see there, it has some open meadows, but it also had a fishing pier, and still does have a fishing pier onto the Stono River, where the public can go out and crab and fish on the Stono. You'll also notice that there in the bottom left picture, there's a facility or building on the property that can be rented out for weddings or events, family gatherings. The whole park can be actually rented for those types of activities, and the town of Hollywood uses those funds to maintain the park. And also, in the last few years, the town has added basically a prayer garden or a quiet place there in the top left picture to honor the Emanuel 9 victims on the park. And then again, as Eric said, another way that Greenbelt properties are protected is through conservation easements on private land. And to date, $17.5 million has been awarded to protect 11,644 acres in District 8. Protecting private land may not always provide public access, but it does provide tremendous public benefit, and that includes the improved water and air quality, preserving the county's rural character, conserving lands for farming and timbering, and maintains our scenic vistas along both roads and waterways, and then of course protecting our marsh and wetlands. Okay. And an example of a property in District 8 that it is a privately protected piece of land is Bugby out on Wadmalaw. If you can see it very well, it's kind of outlined in blue there. On the map, it's almost 900 acres just as you go over the bridge onto Wadmalaw. And you may be familiar with this property. They open it seasonally for you pick vegetables, tomatoes and strawberries and corn throughout the summer. So even though it is privately protected, you can see the benefits that the public can reap from this property. And so that piece of property, as I said, is just under 900 acres, and it was protected with $2.4 million. So if you have any information or need information about the Greenbelt program, there's several ways to find out about all the projects that have been protected or anything else that you'd like to know. First of all, by contacting the staff, and now you have Eric Davis as your director and Peggy Potts as the project officer. You see their emails there. And then we actually have a website that's solely for the Greenbelt program. It has a lot of information on it. If you've not had an opportunity to visit the website, we really encourage you to do so. All the properties that are currently open for the public to enjoy, we have specific project pages for those. You can go on those project pages and watch a video of the property, see a gallery of photos, as well as information about the project and who owns it, whether it be a municipality or the federal government or whoever, and how you might contact them if you wanted more information about the property. And then we do have a Facebook page. And so if you haven't followed us on Facebook, we'd encourage you to do that as well. A lot of information is posted out there, not just about the Greenbelt projects, but also when we have a funding cycle open, that's posted out there, as well as just general information about wildlife. We like to share that kind of information. And so that's our presentation, Ms. Johnson. If anyone has any questions or if we can provide any other information, we'll be glad to do that.
All right, that's an excellent presentation. I certainly was looking forward to hearing more about the projects that we have already funded, and y'all did an excellent job with that. So those are some really great examples for people to see, you know, how we use the Greenbelt money and projects that are created. So do we have any questions, anyone? Nobody wants to create a Greenbelt project?
No, ma'am. I have a question though.
Okay, Mr. Blake.
Are there any more projects planned for Johns Island?
We actually, and I apologize, Mr. Blake, I didn't bring the specifics about Johns Island, how much has been protected there. We've already done several projects on Johns Island. And as Eric mentioned, we're about to open a funding cycle, and we hope that we might see some projects for Johns Island coming in during that funding cycle. But yes, sir, I mean, I know I can think of some off the top of my head. Actually, we have
the city of Charleston has the property we just purchased last year. No, that was this year. Off of Maybank Highway.
Yes, ma'am. The city of Charleston, yes, ma'am, that's exactly right. There's the Griffith tract. They haven't closed on it yet, but that has been approved. They also purchased an additional acreage right next to the Johns Island City Park. That's off of Maybank as well, and they're going to expand the size of that park.
And the Angel Oak?
Yes, ma'am. The Angel Oak, as well as, let me think, there's a couple of private properties on there as well that have been protected. One off of River Road, the Three Friars property, thank you. And goodness, I'm trying to think.
Progressive Club?
Yes, thank you. Ms. Johnson knows it more than me.
Well, it's in my district.
Yes, ma'am.
I had to vote on it.
Yes, ma'am, that's right. And there's also Full Faith Ministries has Sweetgrass, the Sweetgrass
Yes.
Park on Dr. Whaley Drive or Road, not sure which one it is. So yes, sir, there's several projects and Kristen is showing, I think you all.
I'm not showing
Oh,
it,
you're not,
but I
okay.
can.
But the nice thing about our Greenbelt website, it has a listing of all the projects and you can sort by however you want to sort. One of the ways is where it's located. So you can go out there and sort by Johns Island and it should come up and give you a list. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Now, even though we've named all of those for Johns Island in particular, we still have rural money. Right, Miss
That's
Mr.
correct.
Davis? And so if somebody wanted to create some other projects in the district, I mean, they can do that. We just happen to have most of the land.
And
So
Mrs.
projects go in
Johnson,
District 8.
Mrs. Johnson and Mr. Blake, this is David Ray with the Low Country Land.
Oh, yes,
Trust.
hi.
Hey, and I'm happy to announce that there is going to be a project submitted in the upcoming cycle on Johns Island, and that'll be one that you've probably read about it in the paper. We refer to it as the Oakville Burden Creek project. It's on land that, in partnership between the conservation community and other community interests, Center for Heirs Property Preservation is involved in our partnership, and the Aviation Authority. They were able to step in and purchase that property just to the north of the airport. But part of the synergy and the part of the picture of funding that project is to put a conservation easement on that property as well. So we've already gotten a grant from the State Conservation Bank, and we'll be going to Greenbelt in the January cycle with that one. And we're hopeful that maybe there'll be some others from Johns Island. We are actively trying to find landowners who are willing to work with us. We'd love to be submitting several from Johns Island. I think there's a decent chance we'll be submitting another one from elsewhere in the in your district, Mrs. Johnson. We just, if anyone knows of a landowner who would like to talk with us about possibly working on one, you can find our website, lowcountrylandtrust.org, or happy to provide you contact information. I'll put it in the chat. We'd love to work with community members.
All right, thank you. And I was just thinking also, so can you think of, roughly what is the smallest amount of acreage that you all have worked with? Because we have people that have small properties and don't apply.
Yeah, that's a really good question. We don't have any kind of a definite cutoff on acreage, and we have, in fact, from time to time worked on some pretty small tracts on the order of an acre. That's not the norm. And usually when it's that small, there's got to be some kind of compelling feature with that particular piece of land. But it may depend on, is it going to stay just in private hands? Is there going to be public access? There could be any number of factors. So we don't cut it off at any particular acreage. It's really a conversation about what can be done that works for the landowner, that works for the Greenbelt program, that works for conserving the property. And the other thing that we have to take into account, and the landowner does, is the cost of doing a Greenbelt transaction. So there's certain transaction costs, maybe a survey, title work, other kinds of things that have to happen. And so the smaller the property gets, the little bit greater percentage of the overall package those costs are. And that's just sort of a figuring out if there's a way to make it work. But part of the project that we're partnering with the Center for Heirs Property Preservation on, and the Open Space Institute and the Coastal Conservation League, is we're kind of right now we've focused on Johns Island. We're focused on a particular part of it in that quadrant around Edenvale Plow Ground. And part of that is to try to figure out how we can more effectively work with landowners across a different sizes of properties. So there may be different tools that work better for some properties than others. And we're trying to demonstrate that and figure it out as we go. So we welcome all inquiries.
All right. So if somebody had a nonprofit and they wanted to do a small park, that might be beneficial, maybe let's say near a church, or it could be a piece of property in the community that could be used as a park, community park. Now, would you possibly be able to help with something like that? Because what I'm finding out is it seems like people might have an interest in the Greenbelt project, but they're not sure how to go about implementing a program to make it, workable. And if they could partner with somebody, probably like you, Mr. Ray, your organization, where they can get some kind of assistance about how to do that.
Absolutely. We would be happy to, as other partners would, but please feel free to contact us. And we're actually going to have a new staff member coming on board. She couldn't quite make the meeting today, but she'll be coming on board in the next couple of weeks. She's particularly going to be focused on Johns and Wamalaw Island, but we work all throughout your district as well. Her name is Natalie Olson, and her job is going to be to figure out how to respond to those kind of inquiries. So happy to field those and work with people and try to problem solve.
Okay. Do we have anyone else?
Yes, I'm Deacon Johnson from the Parker Ferry area,
Okay.
and I would like to know, are they planning on anything in our area, the Adams Run Parker Ferry area?
Thank you, sir. Right now, I don't know of any potential projects, not to say that there aren't out there. We usually hear about them as they're getting close to a funding cycle. Several projects have been done in the Parker's Ferry area. There's most of them, or some of them, have been private landowners. But as you know, the PRC bought a large piece of land, I think it's over 600 acres, for a future county park off of Highway 17 or Savannah Highway in that area. And also the Willtown community was awarded funding to buy about 21 acres off of Parker's Ferry Road.
Walk over to they're doing some paving on one of my projects.
I think we can hear your conversation, Mr. Lee.
Getting that road paved.
Also, there have been, like I said, a couple of conservation easements. Actually, the largest, as far as land size, conservation easement we've ever done was just completed last year off of Parker's Ferry Road. It was 2,000 acres was protected in that area. It's called the Willtown, Ace Basin Willtown Knox Project. A private landowner who timbers his property put it under a conservation easement. And it was, like I said, it was a 2,000 acre project. And so that's been our largest project to date, one piece project.
Isn't that the one that Miss?
Go ahead,
Okay.
Ms. Johnson.
I was wondering if that was the project that was connected with the Midwest VACO. No?
The Spring Grove was, not
Oh,
Willtown
Spring Grove,
Knox.
okay,
Yes, ma'am.
okay.
Mhm. Yes, ma'am.
All right, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, correct me if I'm wrong, but y'all don't seek projects.
That's right.
So they don't seek projects, the projects come to them, so, they only know what is being brought to them. So if y'all have something out in your communities that you want, to be funded by Greenbelts, reach out to them or reach out to the Low Country Land Bank or another, conservation company that, that they can tell you how to go about doing it, but they don't seek out properties for Greenbelt funding.
That's right, but we'll give as much assistance as we possibly can to help you, submit an application and make those connections with the organizations that might be able to help with that.
Okay, Mr. Lee, were you trying to ask a question earlier?
That's East Summon of the First Street.
Okay, guess not. One other thing I'd like for you to bring out, Ms. Ruff, is how these Greenbelt projects helps to protect the community
Ma'am.
from development.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. As we talked about, a lot of, especially if you have out in the rural areas, well, even as the urban sprawl happens and people are looking for land to try to develop, it's moving out into the rural areas, as you know that, and out into settlement areas. And that can even be right in the middle of an urban town, a municipality. And so how the Greenbelt program can help is if that community would like to retain its rural character, we have the community, most community groups have a nonprofit agency. They can apply directly to the program to protect land in their community. So that's one way. Another way is out, like I said, out in the rural areas, and this specifically became an issue that Ms. Johnson, again, was involved in and asked us to go out and look at. And if you don't mind, if I give this an example, Ms. Johnson, at the end of Cane/Slash Road, as you all know, Cane/Slash Road has just saw a tremendous amount of development out there. And it's just, it's spreading all the way down to the end. And there are still community members out there that would like to protect their rural nature. So what can happen is if that land that was purchased, let's say for development, had been protected by a conservation easement by a private landowner, that would have protected that community next door from the onslaught of development that came. And that's another way that we see conservation easements assisting and helping to protect those areas from the development that's coming. They help to reduce the development, and then all the benefits that I've already talked about as far as the water and the air and all the benefits that a conservation easement provides. Another issue is that, as you all know, as development happens, it causes the land values to go up, and that can be beneficial if you want to sell your land, but if you want to keep it, it can create your land to be more valuable, but that increases the taxes as well. And so there's lots of benefits from protecting land, whether it is through the purchase of the land for a park or through protecting private land into perpetuity. And it does continue to provide tremendous benefits forever.
Okay. Do we have any other questions?
I have a quick question. Oh,
I
go ahead.
think, okay, I did see Ms. Mitchell, and it's another person?
Yeah. Yes, I do have a question. Once the Greenbelt program has bought the land, say for the land that's on Parker's Ferry, are there funds that we can apply for to develop this land into a park, or do we have to go through Parks and Rec for that?
Sure. So if there are some funds available for minor improvements, and when you apply to protect that land through fee simple acquisition, then you would actually put in your application a request for funds for those minor improvements, but those are very limited. It's going to be pervious surface parking, which means not paved. So some type of aggregate material or dirt or gravel, boardwalks and trails. And I think that's.
And maybe some unpaved roadways just to get access.
Yeah, unpaved roadways to get there. And that would be part of your application for the acquisition of the property.
Okay, so apparently that part wasn't done in the application. So can we still submit an application to have those things done?
And Ms. Mitchell, which park are you referring to? I apologize, I didn't hear. You talking about the Spring Grove or Willtown's park?
No, I'm talking about Willtown, the one with the 21 acres.
Yes, ma'am. Off the top of my head, I can't remember if they applied for funding for not minor improvements. I could check on that for you and let you know.
Okay.
I just, off the top of my head, I can't remember. I know they originally, when they submitted the application, the intention was that they were going to put up some picnic shelters. However, I think that was part of their match because we cannot fund that type of a structure. But as far as, yes, ma'am, off the top of my head, I'm sorry, I can't remember if they were awarded in funds for improvement for that, but we can check on that for you.
Okay, would you please?
Yes, ma'am, I sure will.
We do need to get that, the land developed somehow.
Yes, ma'am.
For, for the community use.
Yes, ma'am. And we can also help, maybe if the funding from Greenbelt's not there, we can possibly help identify some sources like the state PRT, the tourism and parks and tourism. They often do benches and other types of improvements. So we can maybe help with identifying some other sources of grants that you can apply for.
Okay, okay.
Yes,
And this
nice.
is who am I speaking?
I'm sorry, this is Kathy, but you probably want to reach out to Eric Davis.
Okay, all right.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Kathy, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
We had another question, someone else.
Yeah, Ms. Johnson, this is Eric Davis. I had a quick question for Mr. Leroy Blake. And I hope I'm not off here, but Mr. Blake, are you the same Leroy Blake that worked for Dorchester County for many years?
Oh, wow. He's telling on him.
As a safety officer.
Yes, Eric, this is the same Leroy Blake. How are you doing, man?
I thought so. Good to see you again, sir. Our paths crossed here for a few years.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's a good one.
Yeah.
So you can't hide on this program.
No, you can't hide, yeah.
All right. Do we have anybody else that have a question? No one else? Wow. Okay. Well, I guess with that being said, Ms. Hess?
Yes, ma'am.
What are we having for next month?
We had talked about delinquent tax
Yes.
and protecting land, not losing land, basically, to kind of keep on with our how to protect people's property. Next month it is going to be on the third Wednesday because the fourth Wednesday is the day before Thanksgiving. So we're going to do it on the third Wednesday, which is November 17th.
Okay, I thank you so much. And I want to remind everybody that if you have topics that you would like for us to cover, please let me know. This is a program where I want to know that you are getting information about concerns and issues that you have. So, while I'm choosing some of it, I want you to choose, what do you want to hear about? Because it doesn't do any good if I'm not bringing you information that you need to know about.
Anna, this is Brenda again. When can we talk more about broadband? It seems like that's going down. It's getting lost in the shuffle, I should say.
Oh, no, it's not. But we certainly will be back on that, but it's not getting lost.
Okay.
Okay, but I'm good. You can keep reminding us until we do it, but it's not getting lost. Our staff is, I'm sure, they were working on some things that we do have a map I'd like to show you all at some point, but I don't have enough information to bring that forward for a program at this point.
Yeah,
But,
and the infrastructure bill is in the process too, and that's got a lot of funding for broadband. So it's coming for sure.
Okay.
It's just a little time. And we
Okay.
do have some money that I'm certainly going to be trying to get for broadband use. So no, haven't forgotten about you.
Okay.
Mrs. Johnson?
Yes.
On the topic of property taxes that was mentioned as the topic next month, I wanted to just mention, and I came on late, so maybe it was mentioned at the beginning, that the Center for Errors Property Preservation and the partners in the project I mentioned are going to be having a workshop on Johns Island on November 16th. That's really focused on how to take advantage of the homestead and agricultural property tax classifications, so that if people aren't taking advantage of that but are entitled to it, then they can get lower property taxes on their property. So that's going to be at the Berkeley Electric building, the new one. I don't recall off the top of my head what time, but I may be able to dig it up real quick. But it's November 16th, the day before the next roundtable. So I wanted to
Okay.
make sure.
But
that
maybe
we-
we can
If you
get
have
that
a
date.
flyer, you can send me the flyer and I can send it out to the entire group.
Right.
Okay,
Or if you just have information, I can send it out to the entire group.
we've got a flyer in the making, so we'll do
Okay.
that.
The flyer's ready. I can send it to you,
That'll
Krista.
work.
It's at
Okay.
6 o'clock.
Okay. That looks like Mr. Crawley was trying to ask a question. Jason
Oh, no,
Crawley?
that was
Huh?
I was just confirming that I'll send the flyer. It's all ready. The
Oh.
workshop is at 6 o'clock on the 16th.
Okay, okay. All right, anybody else? All right. Seems like y'all were cooking today, all right? So now I gotta see somebody come up with a nice small project, something that's going to, especially what I'm looking for is to help with, kind of blocking out some development in our settlement areas, because that seemed to be a big thing now that's happening. Okay. All right. All, as they say in church, all hearts and minds are clear. So until next time.
Okay,
Thank
See you
you.
later.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson.
Thank
All
you.
right.
thank
Thank
you.
you.